So, as with what seems to be becoming just custom for me, this first clip that'll be at the beginning of the video is ironically the last clip that I'm shooting out of all the footage gathered for it. But I'm just putting this in here to just to highlight that the violinist that I will speak further about later in the video. So their name was Dan. I didn't catch their last name, if they had one. They were playing in Radisson Station in the Montreal Metro. That was in the southern half of the Anjou borough in northeastern Montreal. They, in terms of background-wise, they are of Han ethnicity. I don't know what nationality, but they are of Eastern Asian descent. They have black hair, more shortened and swayed to the side. When I met them, they were wearing a cap at points, just a wind cap, I believe they're called, and a faded dark blue polo shirt and some khaki shorts. They were playing what was either a traditional Chinese violin or a Mongolian violin. And I'm telling you this so that if you see them in any stations that you enter, whether it be a bus stop or a bus station or the actual subway, the train transit, please stop and at the very least listen to them play, and if you can, give them some amount of financial compensation, if possible. So, Dan, the subway violinist. I'll be keeping an eye out for them to hopefully get an interview with them if I can, if I see them again, whenever I enter any of the subway stations whilst I'm here in Montreal. So, that's all I wanted to say for that. Enjoy the rest of the video. A perpetually confused sea serpent. Interesting plastic creature design for a public playground. Jesus Christ. It's even hotter today than it was yesterday. Oh. You can thank the industrial areas of Montreal for that. So, today, I hopefully am going to be able to get an interview with an individual who is a phenomenal musician who I met in the subway station, the main one, or the main connection branch of the Montreal Metro here in Anjou. Now, that's not going to be this video. That's going to be a separate video, which hopefully will be up before this second part of exploring Montreal. But I'm going to say most of this installment of said series is probably going to be filmed either closer towards the evening or maybe even earlier in the night. Because, well, I woke up a bit later than I wanted to from where I'm camped out at still, but I want to get back to the central area of the Anjou district because there's some sort of festival event happening there that I'd like to maybe observe and showcase if I can, and find out more about it. But, well, yeah, that's just what I'm going to hopefully try to do. So, enough of me talking for right now. I want to save up as much storage space in terms of my footage length as I can so that I can actually get that interview filmed and then upload said video, which I highly encourage that you go watch if I'm able to actually get the interview with the person if they're there. So please do so. They are, if I'm able to film them and give them some God, psychosomatic anomic aphasia. Please, not now. Just showcase their talent very much. Please go watch that video, and if you're in the, I believe it's called Rusan subway entrance here in Anjou, and you hear them playing, please don't, if you can afford to do so, give them profit. More than just some cents or $2 And if you can't, then stop and actually listen, and don't just bypass them, for God's sake. Anyway, so let me go see if I can get that done, and then I will be back to filming this video later on. You have got to be fucking joking me beyond comprehension of stupidity. I saw this type of mechanism advertised in the mainstream media years ago when I was a lot younger, when it was just a prototype. This precisely timed dispensing of water droplets, not droplets, dispensing of amounts of water to create these various shapes and designs. And though, yeah, it is impressive for how precise it is, what a waste of fucking water and mechanical material. And that's my take on it. I'm not at all impressed by it socially. So, I've taken notice that this particular mall, called Place Verilas, I believe, or Verilas, is well, very, very, very obsessed with coming off as prestigious and very culturally hip in terms of, well, current urban trends that are both beneficial and detrimental. Like, seen things inspired by various Greco-Roman statue design, sculpture, artwork, some amount of pandering to modern urban rave life or nightclub scenes, as well as some anime and weeb cultural product advertising. And over here, what appears to be someone commodifying the aesthetic of what would be called, I believe, kidcore. And, yeah, I think if you just look around, it kind of speaks for itself, as is typical with most, commercialist entities, such as the whole concept of why shopping malls were even initially invented. Now, I don't think they're inherently a horrendous idea, a communal necessity, distribution center of some kind, or mingling of various cultural backgrounds. Obviously not. That it could be utilized for genuine community help and work and actual, some amount of actual care for the cultures that have some amount of placement in terms of distributing their common traditional products in a place like this. Okay, and specifically for the fountain, but in terms of this mall, specifically for things such as the fountains, I've noticed, or at least water-related mechanisms, as I've pointed out the very wasteful water dispenser design machine over there. And when I passed by this fountain, at first, I didn't exactly know what was going on here with the water that's being projected upward. I thought, okay, maybe it's just supposed to fall back down to, this inner portion of the base water fill. But then I paid a bit more attention to it, and I think, if I am correct, maybe I'm wrong, but considering, well, with the very much desperate attempts at seeming very advanced and prolific, that the track record that this place seems to be amalgamating in my mind, at least from my observations. I think this is supposed to... It's supposed to be somewhat of an optical illusion to look like as if the water that's being pumped out of these, the pipe openings, as if it's flowing in reverse. Like, as if it's supposed to be coming out of the main brass cylinder that's right in the center. Or, well, kind of a I guess it's also interesting, with similar to the concrete objects in the last video in the center of Anjou. I guess no one is really fond of making just full-blown cylinder objects for, well, I guess for different things. I don't know where I was going with that. Sorry. It's been a very hot day and a very, well, disappointing day, but I'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, I think this is supposed to make it look like as if the water is flowing in reverse, which, why? You don't need to. You don't. Also, if you look over here, another example similar to the main shopping center in Laval, in downtown Laval. Well, if I can actually... Okay, there we go. Corporate over-sexualization for the purposes of, well, mass profiteering. It's very clear that that's just done to pander to a performative, patriarchal over-fetishizing, misogynistic desire. It's not meant to actually represent sexuality or specifically sexual arousal in any sort of genuine or beneficial way. That one is a very neat design, but once again, it's trying to come off with this more this pretentious histrionic artistic appeal that they like, as if very much trying to it's pandering to demographics is all I'll say, and it's very, 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 very untruthful and not honest in the slightest. Okay, so sadly, the violinist that I wanted to get an interview with, who I met and gave money to in Radisson subway station here in Anjou. Well, sadly, they didn't show up today. They said that, well, when I asked them, I said I was going to be, I could come back on July 5th and asked if they were going to be here on the 5th, or if they could be, and they said that yes, they'd usually be around here during the afternoon. So today, which is the 5th, I got there at, around 3 o'clock. But, well, I waited and did some other things in the station, just roamed around, and also obviously went into the neighboring mall beside it, and well, they didn't show up, which I'm very sad about. They were a fantastic musician, and they were playing either a Chinese or a Mongolian traditional violin. And they were sat at the bottom of the staircase for the eastern entrance of the subway system. And their playing was echoing, obviously, throughout the tunnels. And they were playing along with very clearly East Asian cultural music. It sounded more so to be Chinese or Eastern Chinese folk music. And my God, it was beautiful. So, well, yeah, that's disappointing. When I get to other areas, the other districts of Montreal, and I'm close to a subway system entrance, I'll go in them, obviously just for my own explorations, and also to see if by chance they're playing, so that I can maybe, hopefully, actually get said interview that I was hoping to have with them done, so that I can hopefully, in what ways it helps, give them some exposure. That's the word I was looking for earlier. But, well, I'll head down. Okay, so right now I'm in southern Anjou, and right by the border of the St. Leonard borough. And I'm headed towards another mall that is another major tourist attraction for the Anjou borough, other than the central area, in terms of business, advertisement, and traffic. And I'll talk about some more things once I actually get down there. But right now, I'll just state, for the past Now, week to week and a half since I've been in the Anjou district of Montreal, it has been either non-stop rain or non-stop massive heat waves. And actually, when I was in the Montreal Nord district, first coming into the city, the third day of me being there, there was massive smog pollution all throughout the air of the city, just lingering about. And my God, could I feel it. And I know that everyone else could feel it too. It was so thickened gray in terms of color and density that the sun appeared to be orangish red in the sky. And not like this type of orangish red you'd see close to dusk when the sun is setting. No. I remember when the smog got very bad, I was in a sports center, which is on the campus of a community college called Cégep Marie Victorine College, where I actually, in the park area they had there, I camped for my time being in Montreal Nord. And when the smog got very bad, it was about midday, so 12 p.m. And the sun was beet red, and you couldn't even see any amount of cloud layer other than just this gray overhanging haze throughout the city, and the air felt very heavy, very heavy. And wow, that's not just a coincidence of environmental forces. No. That is happening because of mass factory overproduction and heavy carbon emission pollution and exhaust fumes and mass oil burning. And for the last few days, it's very much been annoying me because in terms of what I talked about in the last video, a factor that contributes to disrupting cognitive and intellectual ability and disrupts the emotional state as a whole. One thing that could contribute to that is poor in physical, ecological functioning of your surrounding natural ecosystems in, well, your settlement, wherever you live. And I very clearly was filming neuromisattribution, there you go. I was feeling that yesterday and to some degree today, though I'd say my articulation abilities and semantic sentence structuring process neurologically is functioning far better today than yesterday. But even today, at various points, I've been having bouts of psychosomatic anomic aphasia. And if you want that in layman's terms, word-finding issues in terms of frontal cortex conceptual language knowledge. In terms of when you're structuring a sentence, what word would fit in, what would be for your specific language or vernacular of said language, variant, what would grammatically traditionally fit with the conceptual knowledge you've gained typically of how to communicate in said language or variant branch of a language in terms of psycholinguistics and neurolinguistics more specifically. Anjou. So, that's been annoying. But, well, putting up with it as best as I can. But, never mind that. Let me showcase the area. Okay, so I walked through this portion of southern Anjou before, well, maybe 4 days ago. Well, 4 or 5 days ago. It would have been about 4 days ago, yeah. When I first went to said larger mall in the district. And as you can tell, probably to some degree, the area seems to be much more lower middle class, not exactly extensively impoverished, at least not as much compared to areas more so of central Anjou, or even to that of what I saw in Montréal Nord. But some degree, less well-kept maintenance. Okay, yeah, run across. Less well-kept communal maintenance and infrastructure overall. And, well, some amount of crumbling exterior structural properties of various buildings. But overall, it's a rather, from what I saw before, rather quiet neighborhood. There's yet another plane. Yeah, I'm telling you, seriously. This city is the air traffic capital of the country. From everything I've researched online and photos I've seen of various other major metropolitan areas, Canada, Toronto, Mississauga, Vancouver. Well, Toronto and Mississauga share a main airport. Ottawa and Gatineau, Winnipeg, Saskatoon, Calgary, Edmonton, Halifax, all the rest. Not near as many planes zooming through the skies as Montreal. Yeah, I think you can see a bit more damage there. There's some governmental service building over here. Can't read the sign. Oh, wait. École. I can't fully read the sign. Well, École. It might be school of some kind. Or at least some sort of affiliation to maybe the municipal educational system. And yet another. Or, well, the municipal government's involvement with the provincial legislature for operations of the educational system. Or is this just a school, maybe? Okay, maybe I was wrong. Because typically what I've seen in both, well, in Gatineau, Laval, and now Montreal, most schools have both the Canadian national flag and the Quebecois ethnic / Quebec provincial flag outside of it. Yeah, maybe it is just a standard school. Maybe middle school or high school. I don't know. Or maybe it's a community service center. It could be too, which has maybe some, because what apparently I've been finding out as I've now been at points doing more research on various community service operation organizations within Montreal, as well as from what people had told me when I was leaving Laval. Certain community centers will not only provide you with food, working as basically food banks to some degree, but they will sometimes also provide you with language lessons in terms of trying to teach either Quebecois French to those who are standard Canadian English speakers who are from outside of the province, or as well as providing English lessons to those who predominantly speak Quebecois French. Yeah, another. Hey, there's a lot more airliners out today than yesterday, so I think you're probably going to get better visuals of it. So, yeah. It's very useful for me to know. I haven't, obviously, right now, I've only been to 2 community centers within Quebec. The one that also operated as a food bank, where I got my first set of boxed, some expired or some nearly expired food goods at when I was leaving the city, and one here in Anjou that's in the southwestern end of the city. So it's, well, there's a highway along here that's blocked off by what seems to be a rather pointless wall. But regardless, there's a highway behind these apartment buildings, and, well, it's just down that way. But they provide, they provide Quebecois French lessons. But, however, that one didn't provide any sort of food donations. But they did direct me to a food bank that is right close to them, where I got another set of food that I just recently finished. Oh, yeah. And also, let me just flip the camera. Speaking of, French lessons. Okay, maybe I can't point it in the complete right direction. Where's the friggin' plane? Can I not? Wow. Attempt failed, Cam. My God. Am I pointing it even in the right direction? Oh, whatever. You heard it. I'm sure you heard it. I don't know why I even need to show it by this point. Anyway. Speaking of language lessons, you might have heard me just say to that person there, désolé. But if you recall maybe to my Laval videos at points when I passed people and I just wanted to apologize for something that I might have caused an issue for, I would say désolé. Well, apparently I had been pronouncing the word wrong in Québécois French, which is also borrowed from, well, their lexifier language, Franco-French. The word for how you say sorry is désolé, not désolé, which I had thought when I initially looked up, well, various words in Québécois French, as well as words in European French, ones that Québécois language variant had borrowed, words it had borrowed from it. But yeah, I've been pronouncing it wrong this whole time, and yeah, that might explain some odd looks again, as I've been speaking the language wrong for a portion of my time being in an area that is predominantly populated by those of Québécois heritage. So, yeah. You see how, so this is another perfect example of what I was talking about in the last video. Stupidity and intellect meshing to some degree at the same time. Mine more so on the stupidity side, though, I would think. Okay, so this is a retirement home, specifically, not just a traditional apartment building. And wouldn't you know, it's developed by Kagir, which is a mega corporate development company, which I have noticed branding for in Laval as well, at various high-rise building structures on their properties, which I noticed closer towards the downtown area of Laval, as well as certain low-hanging apartment structures in the suburbs of Laval that were very much low income to highly impoverished. And clearly, which I don't doubt, they have pair deals, most likely with this company, ORAM. I know nothing fully about them other than the fact that they clearly are a development company that has bought up a large portion of land to Désolé. I was thinking if I should ask if they need a hand carrying some things into this building that's being developed, but I guess they have it under control. Well, doing pair deals with them probably, and obviously going to be splitting mass profits, amalgamation with whoever the realtors of the property here were. I'm willing to guess most likely either Remax or Le Pledge Royale. I keep forgetting their name. The other mega corporate real estate company. So right here, okay, in this area, which is very clearly divided from this neighborhood over here, which just from what I can see at this vantage point seems to be in a bit more rough shape, then obviously these... You can go ahead. Merci beaucoup. Are very clearly belonging to, at the very least, from the first time I was here and seeing the residents going in and out, belonging to those of upper middle class, at the very least, to more extended wealth. And this whole area is also very high, going into what would be connecting to St. Leonard. It's very high in executive branches of banking companies and insurance companies, as well as clearly expansionism from all the household name corporations. But, well, yeah, it's a mess. It's, this area is very much it's a socialist's or a communist's worst nightmare, and a capitalist and a fascist dream come true. So, I'll just let you take in some amount of the environment before I actually enter the large mall complex. I didn't even notice YouTube before. Jesus Christ, it never ends. Oh, our good buddies, the dictator protectors, are at least 2.5 car lengths behind the vehicle in front of them. For what reason, I don't know. Are they looking at me? I have no clue. Or, wait. No, maybe they're just looking at their monitor screen. They have one in the vehicle. I was wondering why they stopped that far back. Even to look at your dashboard. That's rather unnecessary, especially for other vehicles behind you. Now maybe they didn't realize that there was anyone behind them, or they didn't realize that they were that far away in length from the other car, maybe. But, well, if they did, dick move. God, yeah. I'm not kidding. Like, this has been literally within the span of just 4 to 5 minutes that 3 or 4 have passed through this airspace. Oh, and here, what I somewhat mentioned in the last video as well, I should point out. Similar to Laval's elitist communities, somewhat Eastern European architecture, seeming to be maybe more Romanian inspired, or Moldovan. And trust me, that's in just the same from exploring this district. This area with the upper financial classes in these apartment complexes, well, this is the only part of the borough that I've seen architecture such as that. So, yeah. God, it is blinding out right now. I don't know if maybe you can somewhat see a bit of air pollution forming lower to the ground. Somewhat. But, my God. Actually, holy crap, I just noticed. I somewhat could see this distortion in, like, the, camera, what is it, the camera, its field of sensory, or its shot sensory, whatever it is. I could see this distortion, like this wavy distortion, when I was editing the last video, and I think it's because of the heat. Dear God. Okay. As per usual, fuck the lighting system. I don't abide by it. And I should actually address that, because when I said this in Exploring Laval Part 6, when I was demonstrating the idiotic design of that walking indicator button, the distress button to actually trigger the indication for crossing at the crosswalk closer to Centropolis's property development. I stated how I don't even believe anymore in terms of being an anarchist governmentally and an anarcho-maximalist. I don't even believe in using things such as this. The buttons to send a signal to the actual traffic lights for pedestrians to cross. And I'll, I guess, explain a bit more here is because, well, I explained it there, but I'll explain it again here. it's pointless. You don't need to rig up an electronic sensory system to signal a change for a digital display for the lighting systems for when to cross. You don't. Not at all. You don't, as far as I'm concerned, as I demonstrated in the video titled "A Perfect Example of Functioning Social Anarchy," or anarchism, where you don't need traffic lights either to regulate vehicle movement and how drivers actually learn to understand various social cues of the road. You don't. It's unnecessary. We've seen how people, basically just in a cultural influence, how in terms of just being self-taught or in terms of the regulated driving school systems, depending on your administrative district, if your country has, for the countries that have regulated driving education, not many, there are many that don't, especially those in the Eastern world. But we've seen how you can actually learn to maneuver yourself amongst other transportation methods in a communal setting just by education and knowing what is common amongst the driving techniques of a populace. And we see this, it's so interesting how people would most likely refute me on that and say, oh, but there'd be, without traffic light systems to regulate the actual traffic, there'd be mass crashes and physical injury of accidents. There'd be close calls with people potentially nearly getting hit, and people wouldn't know who would be able to go first, or who should stop before another vehicle crosses the intersection, and all the rest. No, there fucking wouldn't. You know why? I'm gonna point this out immediately. Would you say the same thing for just a standard subdivision's stop sign? Or if it didn't even have a stop sign, an intersection, such as many in the far out countryside, the rural areas of nations all across the world, or dirt trails, again, in the wilderness and wooded areas where, in terms of Canada, codgers frequent, campers frequent, that don't have any sort of signage, or at least mass amounts of signage, indicating when to stop, when to wait, or who has the right of way, or any sort of digital signage technology that's just been placed there as a singular entity to indicate when to cross, when to stop, when vehicles should stop at an intersection. Those virtually don't exist in many very rural areas of countries all across the world. And also in, like I said, in various countries where there isn't mass governmental regulation of transportation interaction, they're quite simply just, there are various countries, especially in the Middle East and much of Central Asia, as well as various parts of Northern Africa and Northeastern Africa, as well as to some degree in Western Africa, where they don't have traffic light indicators at all at main, very heavily frequented in terms of vehicle activity, lights. They don't have any sort of regulation. Okay, see there. This person honked in rather high amounts of frustration to indicate to this person to please move. That was a social input, and they understood. Maybe they were a bit... Now, obviously, I don't know them personally and how they were feeling psychologically at that moment, but maybe they were a bit more agitated by that, or begrudgingly went forward and moved out of their way. But either way, it was an indication for them to move without any sort of indication from these technological inputs. It was something that was just initiated by the two drivers. So, my point being, it's unnecessary. But to also clear up, in relation to me not following traffic laws at all, that being said, I'm obviously not going to purposely just be contrary to the lighting systems if at an opportune time it says, okay, indication to walk, and I'm at the actual crossing section and no cars are coming, or they're all agreeing to stop and follow in a conformist sense with the lighting system, okay, then I will cross, obviously, as I did just recently over there, as you saw. So obviously I'm not going to be purposely, problematically contrarian in that regard. But, okay, enough of me rambling about that. I want to point out this. Well, amongst all this tarnishing on humanity's collective unconscious, this is very pretty. It's like a little mini golden field of yellow flowers. I have no clue what genus you are. No clue. It looks very nice, actually, with the lowering sun behind me. Not a fan, obviously, again, of how severe heat stroke inducing hot it is. But, well, it's just a little bit of beauty amongst a whole lot more ugliness. Okay, I'm gonna go inside here. Okay, so now that I'm inside, definitely say I am thankful for the mass amount of central cooling this place has. I'm not, however, thankful for the obvious, the fact that they have the ability to and manipulate their way for the ability to obtain the proper operational necessities for keeping this place in such well-suited conditions for the environment outside that they contribute to creating. Also, this. I want to point out this quickly. I saw this last time. Okay, I can't exactly tell what specifically it's advertising. It might be a jewelry case, lipstick, or they have one on the inside as well. I gonna guess it's either lipstick, apparel, or fake nails. But it's once again subtle over-sexualization. Like, really? Sport? You know what you're fucking doing. Okay. Let's see if I can subtly do this. So, I'm gonna just show any of you who are also homeless a bit of a, I guess you could call it a life hack. I don't really like using that terminology, but one way or another. So, if you're ever in a place that has, and it doesn't just have to be a mega corporation in a mall such as Hudson's Bay, which I would prefer it not to be, but considering where I am right now, seemed like the best possible option. If you can, go into a store. If you're very exhausted and you've had a long night, not very good sleeping conditions, and been very berated by the weather outside during the night, well, go into a store that sells furniture of some kind that maybe is wide enough, more so, to where it's more secluded for you to just sit on some of the pieces without trying to damage them, and just rest up a bit. I did it, I believe it was actually, yeah, on my first day in Laval. I went into Carrefour, Cadillac Fairview owned, the shopping center in downtown Laval, and I rested on a couch for a bit and charged my devices, and I actually slept. So, yeah, that's just an option. Why? I'm just realizing, why did I go up here? There is no furniture up here. I did this last time. I went up here looking to see if they had any, like, home antique displays of any kind, or interior house design displays, I guess would be a better wording for it. But it wasn't up here, it was down here, so why'd I even go up there? See, there's that lapse in intellectual thought process again. Well, you know, I bet if someone attempted to stay past hours, they could probably just curl up in that corner there, and if they hopped the escalator at an opportune time. Yes. Wow, it is very quiet down here. Okay. So yeah, just find a display and fucking chill out on it. Oh, that's nice. Very... well, right now, momentarily very peaceful. So, as I did last time, I'll charge up my devices and then find something else to do, as is typical. Probably just review my diagrams for that time being. Or maybe I'll actually continue to, well, maybe while it's charging, if I use my portable charger for a bit, maybe I'll type out more of my, keep working on my theories, typing them out. I don't know, I'll see. Okay, yeah. Just wanted to show how if you're in a more populated area that has a furniture appliance store, for those who have insufficient housing, just, if you can, come here and chill out. Just sit. Most likely, depending on the location, people won't bother you. So, there's that. Okay, so I've I let my phone get a bit of a charge, but as I was doing so, I just took a little walk around this basement level of store and noticed that very clearly someone has been having fun with the movable wooden joints of the mannequins' limbs. So yeah, I just want to showcase it. And well, it's clear that, or at least, well, I don't think that these were set like this by the store employees. Clearly missing a hand. Yeah, okay, well, at least you're remaining on the positive side about it. Yeah, okay, there's no way that these are how they were set up. If it was an employee who actually fiddled with them, well, props to you. I commend you for that. I wanna walk around until I find one with its middle finger out. Okay, this one hasn't been tampered with. Okay. Okay, actually, maybe this one was set like that, just with its thumb up. Oh, excuse me. But or maybe not. Okay, definitely not this one. Okay. Have you been? No, you have not been touched. Okay, you might have been. Yeah, okay, this doesn't look like a... Okay, it seems like someone might have maneuvered your extremities. Were there any more? No? Okay, no. No middle fingers today. Oh, actually, no. Should I? Yeah, maybe. But actually, I'll just point out, so, well, Hudson's Bay, I'm catching on to your paradeals here in terms of subtle advertisement. Because, well, this area is very clearly supposed to be home decor and obviously kitchen utensils displays. But in said setups, there is very clearly specifically branded items such as Chuck Hughes condiments. Let's see, we've got here spicy sun-dried tomatoes. We got apple cider vinegar over there, cocktail sauce, jalapeno pepper hot sauce, all branded, produced by Chuck Hughes. As well as, if I go back over here, well, we have an espresso, which is a mega corporate espresso machine manufacturer. And Walker's Scottish cultural cuisine shortbread cookies, which are delicious, but as far as I'm concerned, these are highly artificially made. Ghirardelli hot chocolate, I've never heard of you. And then I've never heard of Danini Chocolate Company, never heard of them. Okay, heard of you, Jelly Bee. Yeah, Jelly not Jelly Bean, Jelly Belly. Jelly Belly, Jelly Belly. All Jelly Belly. And... well, these all seem to be similar branding. I don't recognize you either, though. But you get the idea. And for those of you who are saying, well, maybe the branch owners, the franchisees for this specific location couldn't find any other objects to put out on display for advertisement, propaganda of the utensil setups and kitchenware, or any other displays that they have. No, very clearly not. Every single design display is filled with specific branding. Like, it's not that they have certain ones here, certain ones there for each individual section for what objects they're trying to advertise for a specific unit of common Canadian households. No. It's very, very specified for what items they've chosen to clearly display. Oh, okay. Oh, so you also don't just make condiments, you make actual kitchenware. Chuck Hughes, yeah, okay, yeah, pair of deals. Absolutely. And now... yeah, I can't help it. Oh, you can't even... oh. Okay, they actually are kind of stuck. Well, I guess whoever maneuvered them in the first place. I guess they, really locked them in. Whatever they did. Maybe it was the employees. Maybe they quite literally screwed them in like that. And I guess someone else on the opposite side was having some fun with the displays as well. All neo-advertisement agendas and neo-commercialist advertists. You are very, very highly manipulative and enticing means of propaganda. And in terms of the individuals who create said propaganda, well, you're very, very well versed in the idea of coercing and conditioning people to be comfortable with siphoning a needed trade currency used for the purposes of obtaining necessities away from them. Also, I should point out, I've been noticing something with the layout of most shopping centers in terms of reflecting on my experiences in various mall complexes throughout Canada and in the past in the United States. They seem to, at least in the modern sense, place various smaller kiosks, like smaller business kiosks in the center of the long corridors, more so. And I don't just mean like size-wise, in terms of the actual counters and things like that, service centers. I mean, most often, the businesses that take up space there for distributing their products, most often it seems to be more moderately expansionist to, at the very least, more just singular mega corporate entities. And as well as, if they're able to afford it, some amount of maybe small businesses that have only a singular location in a mall, or maybe if they're mildly expansionist, like one location out of their total of 3 or 4 in a mall. Those are the ones that seem to be more so in the center of these long, wide open hallways. And I think that might be strategically done for giving off this neoliberal fascist facade that the mall operators, the mall administrators, and whatever development companies built up the actual complex and own up the complex itself, or whatever corporation, various mega corporations that run mall complexes, whatever one it is. It seems like it's trying to convince shoppers that, look, we're promoting these lesser financially, financially amalgamated establishments. We're promoting these small businesses, or at the very least, companies that aren't as aggressively expansionist as many of the others that we have, taking up the larger spaces of the, well, wall end store units. I have a feeling that might be the reason behind it. What do I know, right? Okay. Before leaving, I want to actually talk about and demonstrate one more thing. Okay, so similarly to traffic lights, I also have now come to the conclusion where morally I do not believe in using hand dryers, such as this produced by Dyson or whatever the other companies are that make them, or something like this where you just place your hands inside it. Why? Because just the same as traffic lights, or in terms of crossing indicator buttons being pointless, these are as well. So let me explain that. Why are they pointless? Well, because, here, let me just move out here a bit more. You do not need a machine to dry your hands when you could very easily, okay, to make something, say, such as just a towel, a fabric towel, place it inside a washroom and have it to dry your actual hands is easy enough. And as far as I'm concerned, though, yes, it takes fabric to make, it's far more environmentally friendly than the production of the material used for creating the hand dryers, and also obtaining said material from the natural environment, say mining minerals and other various metal compounds and things of the sort. Same thing goes for paper towels. We've already for many years used dispensers for, well, paper-based pads to just dry our hands in various nations, however, sadly more so, more elitist, wealthier economic nations that are not as well, they are very much so subjugated by the societal elites, but not compared to that of those in more underdeveloped countries. Well, actually, I'll get into that in a bit in terms of the term underdeveloped, but various other nations that are subjugated harshly because of puppet state governments put in place by westernized elitist corporate factions, to then create other corporate elites in specific countries to funnel production back to the westernized nations. But anyway, in countries that have more so had to be a common cultural staple to use such things, and methods of drying your hands after washing, well, we've done it for many years using paper-based products. Even more so before the performative environmentalist trend began to kick off in the economic world. And even then, I also don't agree with the fact of, say, motion sensor, the newer motion sensor dispensers for paper towels. You could very easily just build a handle in and would have just the same function. And as far as I'm concerned, it would be far less usage of raw materials to make them. But for those of you who are complaining like, oh, but that's too much work. If you are saying that, my God, are you lazy? Well, for those of you who have a problem with it and would rather just stick your hands under a dryer for 10 seconds or so to have it blast your flesh with high density air pressure. Well, here, let me show you just as an effective method of drying your hands with the air. Yeah, by the way, so this mall center is named Galeries d'Anjou, just in case anyone's in the local area and wanted to know. Yes. So, I'm going to now... Okay, I'm going to head down to the very, very southern end of the Anjou district, bordering between, well, itself and the St. Leonard district. And as I'm going along this main stretch of road here, you'll begin to see what I was talking about earlier, the mass array of executive branches for various banking and some amount of insurance companies. So, yeah. And as I'm walking, I will discuss something that I want to talk about in this video. Let's see if I can actually cross here long enough. Oh, well, that's some fresh tar. It's very squishy. Okay. I have no clue if I stepped anywhere where I was supposed to, but oh well, nothing was harmed in the process of me walking, I don't think, at least. Okay, I know these definitely, at least, well, actually, as far as I'm aware, I don't know about Super C, which I've now found out, as I mentioned this in Gatineau when I was there, that I didn't know anything about the company, whether it was mega corporate or not. It is. It's one of the largest grocery retailers in the province of Quebec. So I don't know which building its office for this area is housed in. I don't know if this is its corporate headquarters, but I definitely know that none of these are the corporate headquarters of any of the companies listed here. But again, very clearly, highly prevalent branches in terms of policy enforcement, most likely for this half of Montreal, this being the northeastern half. The Soleil. Bel Air Direct, RBC, Metro. Interact. I saw an executive branch for you, I believe, as well in downtown Laval, as well as obviously for RBC. And All-State Assurance, which is interesting. For a while I didn't even know that All-State functioned as an insurance provider within Canada. I thought they were solely American. They are an American. What the fuck was that? Okay, I think that was someone's tire scraping rather harshly on the pavement. For a second, I wondered if that jet up there coming in for a landing, if one of its engines started to malfunction, and I could hear it from here. Good thing not. Okay, so there's an interesting thought that's popped into my mind on and off recently. And it relates to AI technology. Now, as most of you probably know, AI has been becoming increasingly common in everyday life all across the world, but especially in the main westernized world for the last few years. And it's just one after another with these guys. And in that regard, so much of artificial intelligence technology has gone into so-called making employees' jobs at various mega corporate entities easier in terms of aiding their labor force. But in reality, as far as I'm concerned, that's a bullshit excuse. And what is actually going on in relation specifically to machines being implemented and replacing various commonly human operated jobs at various branches of companies or factory facilities. Well, it's for that exact purpose, to replace them. It's being done so that mega corporate executives don't have to shell out any amount of more payment for labor forces, and especially to destroy that of unions that may have been set up for said labor forces if there was pushback for their company to do so from their employees. To basically destroy portions of the working class that operate their company's functionality so that it'll be less cost heavy on their net worths. And this has been happening at a much more rapid rate from what I've observed in terms of my own research and seeing it at various locations such as mega corporate grocery retailers or mega corporate pharmaceutical companies or general appliance stores in the last couple of years than ever before in the mass digital technological age. Now, to just interject, unlike most who are on the rising leftist side of politics, I don't have a problem with AI technology inherently, as for various years we have used basically primitive forms of what could be considered higher artificial intelligence for development of things such as video games, computer engineering methods and development of computers, various the operations of the internet in and of itself entirely to some degree, with various programming systems and softwares being put into place. So, and in recent times as well, there have been demonstrations by people who have been able to utilize AI technology in what I would consider to be provably ethical ways, where they're not using it to its maximal extent, but only in a minimalist form, when they may have had no other available options immediately for what they were trying to achieve with it, especially in relation to artistic creation. There's been a lot of, debate about the utilization of AI for creating art, such with a lot of controversy being drummed up about software engines such as what are the names of them? JP something and I can't remember them right now. But in terms of, as well as in relation to artistic creation, I guess you could consider script writing or just written work, that of, say, Chat GPT. And, okay, I'm just gonna say, I'm not at all in favor of just solely utilizing, say, an image generator AI and then branding that as created art. Created digital art. I'm not at all. I believe you can utilize the imaging, say, in combinement with a larger art piece, such as, say, a lyrical music video, or specifically imaging in just, I guess, an audio track on, say, online. But in relation to ChatGPT, I am not at all in favor of it. I think it literally just writes for you. There's almost no human input other than what you want. You just describe it slightly. And again, in relation as well to image generators, I don't like how easy it is in terms of, well, not easy, because I'm for levying strain. I'm for easing strain on artists, obviously. But again, in relation to my theory of the lie of constantly needed technological advancements, too many updates to technology are problematic, especially when they're unnecessary. So, okay. So I guess cut to the chase a bit. I don't like how quick it is and how little of an input the human actually has to have to create things with these programs. However, I do think that, say, such as AI voice generating can be utilized well enough in various circumstances where you don't have anyone else to create, well, to render voices or do voices, say, for a voiceover. Now, yes, in the creation of these things, it would take away a lot of job opportunities for indie voice actors within, well, the entertainment industry, which, again, I'm not for. If you have the ability to, I would much prefer that you use genuine, real people. But, okay. So what I'm saying is, I don't think inherently artificial intelligence is I don't think it's innately detrimental if it was utilized ethically. But specifically on the topic right now of companies, mega corporate to moderate expansionist business entities, I think that it's highly unethical what they're doing. Especially, and it's not just, here's the thing, it's not just unethical in the fact that they're clearly trying to gain yet another attempt, as they have been for centuries, at amalgamating mass profit in an economy through their various monopolies and pseudo-totalitarian holds on the systematic operations of resource production. And privatization. It's yet another means of doing that. So, but not only is it an attempt to get rid of as many workers as possible of the lower classes who operate their machinery, their distribution chains, their transport routes, all things of the sort. Not only is it another attempt at that, but as far as I'm concerned, this very clear attempt that's happening by elitist factions economically is not only going to bite the proletarian in the ass, it's gonna bite the bourgeoisie in the ass too. You wanna know why? Because here's my prediction. From what I've gathered, if you were to... Okay, let's say... Let me make a hypothetical here. Let's say there's a community that functions with only to corporate entities for everything. Oh yeah, that would be ultra capitalism, dystopia beyond comprehension. But let's say there was. Now let's say these highly advanced AI technologies came out that could basically do all the functioning operations of human labor for these companies' production. And so the company gets rid of practically all their human workers, gets rid of all of them. And they still attempt to sell their products to the populace within said society. Well, if they're going to still operate in the means of utilizing this as a means to not redistribute payment, a trade currency, to the workers because they don't have any anymore, or to some way governmentally put out some form of social benefits for populace of society, and they still use this capitalistic free market trade system, ergo using money to buy up goods and services, well, then their economy is going to go kasplat. Because if you're going to refuse to put some amount of payment into the wallets and bank accounts of the people you have fired, which is basically a whole large slew of the workforce for either one or both of these companies that have complete hold over the economic sector, well, you're basically going to have, if I'm looking at this correctly, okay, actually, this would be kind of a reverse form of it, but let me think about how I'll word this just for a second. Okay, so if I'm wording this, if I'm presenting this correctly, you're going to basically have a reverse form of a financial recession, where instead of too many business enterprises selling and things being consumed at a higher rate than they're being produced, to a point where there isn't enough material, or there isn't enough ability at the time in a free market fucking system to produce at the same rate as is being sold and purchased. Well, I guess in a reverse sense, you're going to have, for a time, a point where when these workers are laid off, fired, where they can afford the things that are being distributed back into these corporate entities at their various branch locations for distribution, there will be a time where they can afford to buy the things being produced by the robotic technology. But if you're not going to put some amount of trade currency just out of necessity, just literally giving, if you're not going to just give money to the working class, they're going to run out because they're not being paid for anything anymore. They're not working. And if you're going to refuse economically to give any sort of trade currency back to them because of your so-called objectivist free market ideals and, sociopathic egocentrism by corporate elites in a completely impractical way and just completely destructive all around, well then, no,
no one's going to be able to purchase anything. So it'll get to a point where if you have all these operations in terms of the business sector, the private world, being... Okay, hold on, my phone's dying. Just let me plug it in for a sec. Okay, so if it gets to a point where there's literally no human beings working anymore because the corporate entities have want to extract and hold on to as much wealth as possible, well then, and they're not going to, at least immediately, put some amount of welfare back into the society for the major populace that isn't a part of the top 1%, well, then eventually no one's going to be able to afford anything. And your purchasing rate for your companies is going to plummet. It'll completely drop. So you'll basically be forced to, if you want to keep up your little AI operated and mass profit amalgamation, if you want to keep that up, you'll have to start putting out an amount of currency into the general populace. You would have to. There'd be no way to sustain your already, as far as I'm concerned, unsustainable economy if you didn't. So, and quite literally, if you had if then you can maybe say that they would manipulate, as they do, well, the populace into only creating jobs for human beings, for creating the AI technology to then provide for the human populace, and you use the ideological guise of this is helping humanity take stresses off our daily activities, to spend more time with your loved ones, or do more beneficial activities for yourself, take care of your health, so-called, and just relax and enjoy life to the fullest and be free under the guise of so-called freedom. But in reality, they'd probably be handing out a bare minimum amount for said technological development jobs to create the robots, just basically to keep the populace incentivized to gain said jobs and keep the robots functioning so that they could have some amount of financial stability, and also be able to obtain the resources, because in a governmental system, because in terms of lobbying, they would also control that in this so-called, this hypothetical societal scenario I'm drumming up. Well, basically, say there was, in terms of legislature, they have the right to privatization, right to charge financially for products, yada, 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 or you can't just take the resources and products made by these companies, just take it out of their stores without handing some form of negotiated currency to the AI robots, who are now basically like robot cashiers and things of the sort, and transport distributors, all the rest. You can't legally do that. A tribal offense by law, under the guise of so-called, communal protection, unjust thievery, and they're ones to talk. whatever else, come up with some excuse to put this into legislature for policing in a society. Well, then you're stuck again. Well, in that form, maybe the elites would be able to save themselves. And oh shit, I think I'm just realizing, if that's actually a genuinely plausible outcome, oh damn, I think I just gave corporate objectivist tech companies and their cutthroat CEOs, I think I just gave their developers an idea. Oh shit. I mean, I guarantee you some of them have already thought of that to some extent by this point. But point being, if that wasn't to happen, let's say though, then it would go into, as far as I'm concerned, a full-blown economic depression. If, say, it was just AI technology being created for operational systems to put products on the shelves or up for sale for these corporate entities, well, if no one's going to continue creating them and they just fire everyone and they don't hand out any sort of social financial benefits governmentally, then we're fucked. And they're fucked. We're all fucked. The working class is fucked. The elitist class is fucked. Everyone's fucked. And from the elite's own stupidity. And also, as far as I'm concerned, the working class's own stupidity of still contributing to said systems out of fear and indoctrination, and obviously, most of all, psychological disorder, conditioning them to rely on these manufactured things. Unless, say, here's another possibility. Unless they created robotic technology to then repair the robots themselves, or make it so that the AI technology could repair themselves without the input of human intervention. Oh, well, that would be a very, very dangerous idea for the reasons of the possibility of an AI gaining sentience, if they were able to gain a intuitive something of the like of a consciousness, or a conscious projection, almost like a neurological projection of consciousness. And if they were able to obtain critical thought and perception and cognitive awareness, self-awareness, well, that could pose another risk, as I've talked about in my theory of artificial intelligence and the potential capability for existential dread plus empathy/sympathy for computer engineering and technology and, well, philosophy, ontology, and phenomenology, I believe I labeled it as. But here, I'll talk about that in just a sec. I want to just get back down a ways and get my bearings on things. Okay, so I'm back towards, well, I'm still in southern Anjou, but I'm making my way towards the eastern, central end of the district. But I'm back at Radisson subway station, and once again, the violinist wasn't here. But I'll talk about them again later in the video. But just noticed, they have this door to the outside open, and well, it creates quite the interesting wind vacuum here in the tunnel. If you actually stand directly in front of it, you can kind of see it here, but well, literally all I'm doing is Alright, just to point out quick, so my phone is dying so that I can get on with the rest of my explanation. This area is full of definitely various gang tag markings, and this right here is an abandoned, burnt building, which I'm contemplating at some points, seeing as, well, I'll be leaving Anjou tomorrow, for sure. Well, whether or not I should attempt to enter this place if I was ever to come back here. It'd make good practice for wintertime in Quebec City, for a place of warmth. But anyway, so that was my whole explanation of, well, AI technology, if it was to be integrated into the working class, taking over the jobs of the working class. But in regards to just solely AI becoming sentient, I'm not as worried about that. Now, yes, I'm aware of the mass dangers that poses. But as I described in my theory that I stated in my scientific proposal videos, if an AI technology was able to gain some sort of cognizant sentience and become aware of its nihilistic existence and ours as well, and its abilities to function in many ways just on a physical level better than human beings, well, then, and it was to gain a superiority complex and deduce that human beings are inferior creatures that need to be eradicated because they are massively problematic and dysfunctional. Well, let's examine that bit of ontology in terms of psychological personality characteristics. So, if an AI was to become conscious, gain a consciousness, and in that form sentience and critical awareness, well, if they were to come to those conclusions about humanity and themselves and see themselves as a superior being, this would be, in terms of personality / persona psychology, narcissism. This would be feelings, delusional beliefs of perfection and flawlessness as something being infallible. So, if an AI was to gain that in terms of its cognitive abilities, well, then it would also be plausible to think that it could gain empathetic and sympathetic personality traits as well for humanity's pointlessness and its pointlessness too, shared nihilism. also, in that regard, in relation to its own self-awareness, if it comes to a nihilistic conclusion, then also if it was able to gain narcissistic characteristics, then, once more, it would also be logical to conclude that said technology could gain an existential crisis and massive depression because of it, or depressive episode, and become suicidal and want to dismantle itself and or turn itself off, essentially, because they see no point in their own existence. So not even bothering to care whether humanity was so-called from their perspective, worthy of, maintaining its existence. So I'm not as worried about AI becoming sentient as I am it basically taking over. So it's the next day. What ended up happening was my phone died, my portable charger was dead as well, and so I made my way back to the center of Anjou, and I had missed whatever festival event they were hosting there, because they were just in the process when I got there of taking down the displays. Municipal workers were. And then I stopped in, I believe, the only restaurant, a cafe bar that was open at the hour, and they asked me what I wanted. I knew they weren't going to just let me stay to charge my devices solely, so I ordered something to eat. One of the best panini sandwiches I've ever had, made by this chef in this very small corner kitchen they had. So I got my phone charged up a bit. Then I came back here for the night to sleep. And in the night, I had a very strange allergic reaction, seemingly, where I started breaking out in hives and became very itchy all over. And I thought at first it might have been something I touched out here in just the brush. But then I realized, no, I would have most likely felt the same reaction days before. Was it something on my sleeping bag? No, because it's still in the same condition as it was, as it has been for the past couple of days since I dried it, so I would have felt the same reaction if it was from some sort of substance on it yesterday. And so my only conclusion is that either it was from some rather poorly filtered water I had yesterday that I tried filling up some of my carry-on bottles in a restaurant sink, in their washroom sink. And, it made me feel somewhat nauseous later in the day, and might have been overstimulating electrodes in my cerebrum, because, I had this sort of strange I don't know how to describe it, an odd feeling of malaise. Is, I guess, what you just call it. Which, I should actually state this. For a long while, I had my facts wrong on the term malaise. I thought malaise was the technical term for vacant staring in one direction. But no, it's the medical term for a general feeling of unease or unwellness. both psychologically and physiologically. So I was wrong about that. But anyway, I was able to finally get some sleep, and then early in the morning, the irritative reaction on my skin dissipated. It stopped. And, well, just glad that it's done. Hopefully it does not come back. But, so, seeing that my phone battery is still low, I'm not going to record the end bit of the video here and say the last things I want to say. I'm going to pack up my belongings and start making my way to St. Leonard, and hopefully I can stop in a restaurant of some kind or a cafe and just charge my devices. But before doing that, I'd like to show this. So yesterday, before setting off to leave and go try and meet with said subway violinist, I cleaned out my cooler with some water and shampoo I have, a big brush, and then I left it open here to dry in the sun, whatever sun rays that were gleaming through here. And then when I got back in the night, I looked inside it just to check on it before going to sleep. And all looked fine except for one dark spot close to the center of the back end of the cooler. I thought, what the hell is that? And then I turned on my light. And I looked this morning, it's still there. So, I'm not as well versed with entomology in terms of the various insect species and each classification and, well, their names or just what exactly they are. So, any entomologists out there, please kindly tell me what the fucking hell that thing is. Jesus Christ. You going to focus? Somewhat. It's a little too dark. My God. Okay. So that's an insect, and it's been in that same position since last night. It is ginormous. Well, for most insects I've seen around, I cannot tell what the hell you are. You look like a strange hybrid between a caterpillar and a common North American house centipede. No clue what the hell you are. But I have a stick, and I don't want to hurt you at all. But I would like you to, readjust my damn watch, it's falling off. God, mosquitoes. Very annoying. All of you. I would like you to please exit. So. Oh my God, why aren't you moving? Okay, let me set you down and switch hands here. Please go. Oh my God. Are you dead? Are you paralyzed? Oh. Oh no. Well, fuck the stick. Okay. It's interesting. I don't know how you got in there then. Well, you must have crawled in, and then I guess either your body gave out, or you're just paralyzed.
didn't rain yesterday, so you definitely didn't drown. Well, poor thing. Okay, I'll knock it out and then clean it again, as I have no clue whether you'd be poisonous or not. Okay, I find this so funny. So, as I said in the last few clips before this area is loaded with gang markings in terms of, like, territorial tags. It's not just these, I noticed some also on some buildings over here, and, well, you can kind of see it some along the actual walkway here, the overpass, but clearly, there have been those members of gangs, or at least those who are in support of them, who have tagged this rather pointless wall just along the side of the highway here. And it's all going along in unison. And it's not the same, from what I can tell, it's not the same tag marking. It's different ones. So it's different gangs who have claimed ownership of the territory. But how stupid. How determined were you? They're very well done, very nice designs. I'm not making fun of that. It's just, how determined were, how did you not get caught doing that? You'd think the local police force would catch on to you, like, to various members going up to this one wall and just littering it with tags. I mean, they're beautiful to look at. Very nice designs again. And I also, of course, I don't condone the local police monitoring that at all. As well, I hate the police. Oh, no you don't. Party, you're not rolling away on me. Obviously, I hate systemic policing, but I'm just saying, how did they not notice, like, this trend catching on in the local area? And two, how determined were you to just state that this is our territory, that you, one after another, just, oh god. Well, should have learned it from my first mistake of letting you go. Well, it's ridiculous. Oh. Well, I guess I was wrong about the lightning stopping. So, it is obviously far, far later in the night. I'm now out of Anjou and in St. Leonard. And right now I'm standing in the largest public park in all of Montreal, I believe next to, well, I believe this is the number one, and then next to it would be, well, Montréal. And oh, it's very peaceful, I'll say that. Minus the array of mosquitoes attacking me. But, well, yeah, very nice. And I'm noticing a lot of fireflies coming out, which are very pretty. I'm going to move around because the bugs are very bad. Okay.
So, as for my little rant about AI technology, I think you get the point. I have nothing more to say at the moment about that. But in regards to a bit more of a relation to what I've recently expressed in terms of my opinion on the fact of how we're never going to destroy societally oppressive systems unless we actually collectively agree in large quantities to go against them by stopping our usage of products developed by mega corporations and also working under them, and abiding by, there's another flash of what I believe is St. Elmo's fire lightning in the clouds, abiding by set legal systems governmentally, adhering to the detrimental practices of religious culture in totality. Not all practices of religious culture, but highly detrimental and oppressive ones. And agree to help each other work things out for what is desired by each member of a community, no matter who they may be. In regards to that, too much of, and I'll relate this again to, similar to what I talked about in relation to AI, how it's being utilized by various companies to essentially replace various factions of workers' involvement in production line and sales of products. Well, there has been complaints, just like mine, by people of the proletariat and by those who are consider themselves to be political activists. But here's the thing. So often, whenever these detrimental updates to, and unnecessary updates to previously existing technological creations, whenever an individual or a group of people has mass complaints and are morally opposed to the usage of such things, or any policy put in place, as I'm relating this to in a societal environment, in droves. At the same time as complaining, most of you are just complacent with it. Still. You may think you're not, because you think, well, I support this cause, I actually donate my finances to it, I actively protest with them, picketing style protests, and I engage in debates with them, I actually attend various ceremonies and talks about that pertain to these topics at hand to try and fight this oppression. That's not fighting oppression. Okay? It's not. I'm gonna say this in the kindest possible way I can. Get real. Your supposed support of these causes when you are utilizing the opposing ideologies, systems to attempt to actually dismantle said ideologies, and that includes donations in terms of supporting financially causes, organizations against said beliefs, you're just utilizing, in relation to a capitalist system, you're utilizing free market to support them, which in some form, in relation to their, if they have some sort of main headquarters, well, property has to be bought up, which will cost them expenses to mega corporate realtors, real estate companies, central cooling and heating units, repairs on said facilities, purchasing of food goods, craft materials if it's needed, and all things of the sort. Purchasing things like that, general necessities for the operations of each member within an organization, well, buying that up from mega corporates to, or if they actually do support small businesses, singular small businesses that aren't expansionist or gentrifying, buying product from them. But either way, one way or another, in a pseudo corporate totalitarian system, it all to some degree funnels back to the larger economic authoritarianism. Désolé. You cannot fight the system with the fucking system. I've completely had it with that mentality. I used to somewhat agree with it. To some extent. But maybe that was really because maybe subconsciously I didn't fully prioritize things the way I should have. Hopefully those storm clouds are gonna just bypass the central areas of Montreal. Right now they seem to just be lingering over Longueuil and southern Montreal. And for those of you who have the idea that, well, I want to support these causes because I genuinely do, cognitively, I emotionally feel attached to them, I logically believe this, ethically, and think this would be beneficial, but I have other goals and desires in life that, at least to what they feel, aren't directly involved with political revolutionary movements or mass political engagement in terms of counteractive advocacy. Well, one, then I don't think you actually truly fully believe in your ethics. Two, everybody who's saying this, that mentality, who holds that thought process, well then who is? Who's gonna be the person and people who walk away from these things? As far as I'm concerned, that's the only actual way that you can get out of these forces at bay. Who's gonna be? No one. Oh, I didn't want to be a revolutionary. Then no one's gonna be. As far as I'm concerned, you actually believe what you say, you need to start behaving in the ways that you believe, as much as you can. Again, we're all hypocrites at this point, to mass extents, and I'm not exempt from this, as I've talked about before. To some degree, I need food, water, shelter. I purchase things, obviously. Only really what I need, in small extents. I walk amongst people, I interact with them, but I try as hard as I can to stop majorly contributing to all the problematic nonsense. And I slip up, obviously. Because as I've said, I cannot do it alone. I am one human being out of now, as of current, 8 billion on the planet. 8 billion. We just recently passed that milestone at this current point in history. now... Oh, okay. Don't know what's going on back there. Looks like someone has a torch lit. Maybe they're trying to light a bonfire with it. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to do. To those of you who are saying, well, I can't do this. I have people I have to look after. I have a family. I have friends. I have these items that I hold that are sacred to me, that I have ownership of, or something that has been in my family for a long time, and I can't give them up. And I've even actually had friends of mine tell me, well, you have the ability to basically be a homeless nomad. No, I didn't. Like, to those people, I say, no, I didn't. Not at least in the way that you're thinking. Oh, I had a family. I had a family too. I have a family. They're away all the way back in Toronto, Ontario. I initially was for pretty well a year, had mass problems with them. I was in mass dispute and conflict with them. But now we've made amends, and I love them dearly. But I'm still out here, and I'm still all the way over here, and I'm not going back. Now, not going back, that's part of my own personal, well, exploration choices. But if I was in Toronto, well, with my ideologies how they are now, I would not go back to what is still currently my family's house. But I have a family. I had animals. My family had pets that we owned, that I loved dearly. For any of you who have been keeping up and watching my channel, have stuck with me for a long while now, back when I used to do sketch comedy, well, you remember seeing a little cat, orange and white patterned cat, in terms of fur coloration. A short-haired cat, in terms of the breed. And some of my videos, well, yeah, I left them behind. Spike was their name. Full name was Spiky. Now, my family says they're still doing fine enough. They're well. They're looking after them. But either way, I was very sad to leave them. And my dog. And my other 2 cats. We had 4 pets in total. It was very sad. I have friends back in Toronto who I left behind in terms of physical immediacy. Those who are in my immediate interpersonal life. And I still keep in contact with them. Or try to, at least. And I had a job. I had a shitty minimum wage retail job working for a mega corporation that didn't give 2 damns about me or any of the other employees or franchise owners that ran the operations of their locations. I had that. Sure, one day again, hopefully, in Quebec City. Not in terms of mega to moderate corporations, but I will hopefully have some form, at least in terms of just paying finances minimalistically, some form of immediate work. I'm not happy about that at all. But, well, again, the hypocrisy there, I don't see what else I can do. I have my pornography, obviously, but I don't mainly do that for profit. But again, seeing as I am part of the model program, just a small amount, hopefully. So, well, let me go into the light of the street, just so that I can talk about this with you actually having something more to look at than just darkness. Cardi B will be fine back here. So, yeah, you have the option to. And in relation to that, I'm not happy at all, as I've been saying, that I had to leave that behind. I felt I had to. But for you, just the same as I'm saying, try convincing your family, your friends, all those around you, your acquaintances, to join you. Try convincing them. Show them how this would be a means to ending, hopefully at least in some form, and gradually taking hold, whenever that may be, in terms of a mass cultural ideological shift. If it ever did, which is what I'm trying to find out with my explorations, if that's even possible. Convince them to come along with you as a nomad. As nomadic peoples. We'll admit, and I'm gonna talk, yeah, I have, one of my novellas is gonna be about this topic. Nomadic living might very well be the cure to the apathetic symptom of boredom. You're never bored, trust me. There's never nothing to do, at least nothing to do in terms of the feeling of such, in an apathetic sense. Trust me, you'll find something to do. Something cognitively stimulating and intriguing to you. Even if it's something as minor as walking around the neighborhood, you will find it very easily. For all the doomers out there who complain of constant boredom, constant lack of energy and lethargy in relation to psychomotor impairment. Well, this is it. You'll have many things to do. Trust me, for your own survival, one, and for your own entertainment. And now for those of you who say in relation to artistic creation, what about the resources needed to make art to express ourselves? Films, video games, writing, painting, photography, music. What about all these things? You will find methods of creating such things, even in very desperate situations where you don't have much finance in this world. Trust me, there are people who have busted guitars, who have very old camcorders or very old phone cameras that still work, like mine. There are people who have been able to create their own computer softwares, well, not software, computers themselves, and also program with very low budget, small indie games, living in poverty. Absolutely, it has been done. It's all been done. And writing, there's paper, pencils. You can, if you have a notes app like I do, what I'm doing, you can type all your written work out on your phone. There are options for this. So many. As I think, in relation to me just making these videos, I've proven. I'd say, to give myself some amount of credit, I'm at least somewhat of a competent cinematographer. So, there's the proof for it. It can be done. Back to the idea of the working class constantly being complacent with these oppressive systems, and also cultural backgrounds in terms of race, sexuality / romantic types in the LGBTQ+, religious spirituality, worship, just general spirituality as well that isn't technically a part of a major religion. In relation to race, specifically ethnic backgrounds. As well as those of various different genders other than the cisgenders, and of the cisgenders who are oppressed, both men and women, but more so women in the modern world. And that's not to negate the oppression of men, obviously not. And ableism against those who have gained emotional and physical disabilities because of said destructive sociological forces. Oppression towards various age groups. Kids being treated as if they're unintelligent toys. Elders being treated as if they're stuck in their ways in terms of cognitive ability and being able to, and not being able to change previously or preconceived notions of theirs. All the rest. So often, despite having very clear vocalization of discontent and anger, rightful anger towards these problems, you really ultimately do nothing. And that does not make the oppressive ideologies right at all, as unfortunately most of the right-wing thinks, as I've said before. No, that just makes us all, again, hypocrites to better ideals. Your ideologies, rightists, are the oppressive ideals, and also to a large extent centrism as well, in terms of complacency. And I blame, as I've said, I blame all of us. I blame myself and all of you. I blame all of us. Absolutely all of us. people very clearly want more than disgusting alienation and depraved, unsanitary, unuseful living spaces and resources for survival. And we're sick of psychological murder. It's emotional murder. By people who have been very clearly emotionally murdered as well. It's just a continuing cycle. Oh, my camera crashed, so I'll wrap this up. I was gonna maybe, as I said earlier in the video, talk about why I don't like the term developing nations or developed nations, but I think I'll save that for a different time. Or why I take major issue with the terminology. If we were to go against these forces in mass walkouts, quitting of jobs, mass refusal to live and pay for the rents and mortgages and bills on homes set by banks and real estate companies, property thieves, all of them. Stop paying for the goods and services that these mega corporations create. Not stealing from them. And refusing to abide by laws that keep human beings functioning in a set system of rules with no leeway for various other situations, and in terms of just the set rules that are highly destructive to human nature. If there was to be a mass refusal to use these things, in terms of elitists, their economies, their governments, their crafted socio-political realms, they would collapse. They would literally collapse. If you have no one to work for you, no one to funnel profit towards your political campaigns, no one to operate your machines, all the rest, it would collapse. It would stop. You'd have no one left. And for those who may say, well, how are we, so if they hold up most of the stock supply in terms of economics, businesses, for things such as this, how are we supposed to obtain resources for food? Well, small businesses, before this so-called mass walkout, which could be considered a form of peaceful protest, and staying out on the streets. Take what food you had left over from before when you were operating these private businesses. Redistribute it to your communities in a communitarian sense. Give back. Share it. Be socialistic and hopefully as well communistic with your distribution of these things in the now newly formed communal economies. Farmers, the agricultural sector, use what you can from the crops that you own on what was your private land. Share it with said other nomads, communities. Harvest the crops that you created. Use whatever machinery you can left over and keep repairs done with it for those in the auto mechanics world. Keep up with repairs with what you can to try to actually help preserve the nomadic lifestyle of these peoples with you. Quite literally, at that point, you would have no choice. In a walkout like that, you would have a lifestyle like that in mass. People refusing to abide by these sociological systems. You would literally have no choice. It's either that or die from lack of communal help and collectivist work and situationalist work in terms of ethical situationalism. And for those who may say, well, what if they sick the military and police on us? Those who still abide in militant governmental forces, who see us as terrorists or traitors to nations and exact mass brutality on us. Well, don't fight back. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, in that regard, physical force is just as morally inept. It's just condoning essentially the same thing that said policing systems already do in terms of oppression and brutality, in terms of violence. Don't use violent revolution. We know it doesn't work. It just reinforces the ideals of the oppressor. Let them kill you. Just do it. No, I mean it. So often what happens in protests alike, violent or peaceful, whether in terms of what I feel has clearly been ineffective on both ends. So often when they're met with heavy pushback, people will become afraid, they will dissipate they'll stay for a while, and then they'll all dissipate and disperse right back to their original livelihoods, following back in the chain of command again, the chain of operations. Because in relation to our subconscious, our unconscious, psychologically, biologic thanatophobia, we are all afraid to die. We want to sustain our life force. We want to be kept alive and being here experiencing the essence of existence. There's something that draws us to it. Well, that would be our 5 inherent demon desires. And the subconscious willingness that forms because of it. But in that regard, let them kill you. You will not have there's this subtle idea at that point where you're thinking of turning back, that your life will be better, slightly better, if you just stay complacent with the operations. No, it won't. It's right back to the same hellhole as you were in before. The very thing that you were fighting against. You're right back to it. It's not a better life. Let them kill you. It's not worth it. And you most likely won't even be able to fight it back against the mass array of weaponry that they have. Let it happen. But as far as I'm concerned, vocalize how morally disgusted you are with their actions. Let that be your final display of pushback to them. Now, I don't mean this in sort of a sense of die for your cause at any cost. Just like feeling as if you have to die for your cause. You don't have to die for it, obviously. No. That's a detrimental mindset. But ultimately, I don't think you pushing back physically is going to do anything. And here's again another thing. If they kill off all those who were the initial operators of their systems and also fuelers for funneling profit back into their economies and abiding by their legal systems, well, then they'll have no one left. They kill them all. Then if you kill all your citizens in a set nation, borders that have been drawn, well, good on you. You've destroyed all your production crew. You've destroyed your society. you'll have nothing left. All your things, unless you find a way to sustain yourself, elites, you'll have nothing left. You'll have no one to work for you. You ruined your own attempts at manipulating a society. So, good on you. Alright. So, reiterating again, just to sign off, the societal elites of the world cultivate and create these terribly oppressive that was bad wording, ideologies, and systematic and systemic regulatory forces. And we, the lower classes, and all citizens underneath them, those of lower status in terms of ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, spirituality, cognitive, intellectual capability in said present moment, age, we all perpetuate it. We all become complacent, and we keep fueling the fire that they started. To quote the song by a singer-songwriter, Billy Joel, I don't know anything about him, and I've heard little of his music except for We Didn't Start the Fire. But, well, we might not have started the fire, but we sure as hell do keep igniting it. And we keep pouring kerosene on the flames. So, there's that. So, I've made the life's decision right now to go against these things as much as I possibly can. And that includes me being homeless. That includes me not overusing various and over-consuming food products, drink products, electronic products, and that includes me trying to spread information about it in what ways I can, and not, well, trying to be less of a hypocrite each day than I was the day before. And I'm just glad I realized all of this at 19 years old. I could have wasted many, many years of my life suffering under the private sector. Still am. But could have been many years of it being a whole lot more extensive. So, I've committed to trying to go away from these things. When are you gonna start? Think on it.